Dinosaurs. I don't know, is that any good?
Dinosaurs! We wanted to do dinosaurs. And players have been asking for dinosaurs forever. Now, dinosaurs are another thing that we've kind of done a little bit here and there. I mean, we've made cards. In fact, if you go way, way back in Magic, we even made a few cards that were creature-type dinosaur. But at some point, we changed them all to lizards. And so when we're doing this set, I said, hey, let's call them dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are awesome. And so, okay, what do we need to do? What do people expect dinosaurs to be?
So one of the things about the feathers, the specific feathers on these dinosaurs, is they are also related to the sun. Like the Sun Empire has this culture and this mythology built around the manifold sun. And so when we were looking at parrots and jungle birds and all the different types of feathers the dinosaurs might have, we actually design them to sort of radiate out color-wise, so you get all these like beautiful blends of bright colors, but also this almost sunburst effect coming out of a lot of the attachment points on the dinosaurs that makes them not totally look real world, but makes them look super cool and relates them back to that sun mythology.
Adding dinosaurs to Magic turned out to be really interesting and more complicated than you might think. When we think of dinosaurs in our world, we think of them as huge and terrifying creatures, but next to a dragon or a hydra, it's just another huge and terrifying creature, right? In design and development, we spent a lot of time talking about what makes a dinosaur uniquely dinosaur-ish. Is it eating things? Everything eats things. We ended up with that enrage mechanic that I think really nicely reflects what the dinosaurs here are doing.
Enrage came out of a whole feeling that we actually sent throughout the company of looking for individual card designs and mechanics for dinosaurs. And one person in the company came up with this idea of like, well, what if when you hurt a dinosaur, they do something? Like they're mad, they're angry, you stab them, well, you've just kind of made them more angry. You haven't necessarily killed them. And that felt great. We'd gone through a lot of different versions of dinosaur mechanics up to that point. It was a real struggle to get the right one, and that one felt like, okay, well, we get to make these versions of dinosaur mechanics that each one functions completely differently, but there is that thing that ties them together. So even if I have my dinosaur that puts a +1/+1 counter on my whole team for Enrage, or the one that searches out a basic land, a card like Ryle is able to trigger either one of those.
Ripjaw Raptor is one of our enraged dinosaurs. He's a 4-mana 4/5, and he has, whenever he's dealt damage, draw a card. This card is great for a mid-range deck. It's amazing against red decks. Like, you're gonna just draw cards if this card is in play against a red deck. You can also play cards like Lightning Strike in your deck, and if you have no good targets, just target your own guy and cycle it and draw a card. If you're playing a deck with Sweltering Suns, for example, this is just a great card to just have in play and just have Sweltering Suns wipe the board and also draw a card.
Raptor hatchling is fun because we got to make small dinosaurs. We got to make cute little baby dinosaurs. And while cute little baby dinosaurs are cute and all, you've got to be careful because if you kind of mess one up, if you run into it or scare it, it's going to call out. And you know who doesn't like little baby dinosaurs calling out? Their moms.
One of the first cards I ever made coming to Wizards was actually Carnage Tyrant. It's the 6-mana, 7/6 trample, hexproof, can't be countered. It's actually kind of strange coming from me, like, on the outside I really loved making control decks and like, kind of controlling the board, removing creatures, and then the first card I make is this awesome green dinosaur that's really hard to beat. And the story is actually, Sam started the lead, he asked me, so Andrew, what card do you just not really want to play? What do you not want to play against ever? And I was like, oh, well, it's easily this card. And it hasn't changed since.
Speaking of flavor text on dinosaurs, the flavor text for Carnage Tyrant talks about the giant implacable death lizard. I just love that phrase coming together on that card.
We all know there are 4 tribes of Ixalan, but as far as I'm concerned, there's one, and that's dinosaurs. We waited so many years for dinosaurs to show up in Magic, and they are here in force. We made sure that they would hit hard, show up in Standard, be a force in Draft, and be something players will really remember. 2017 is the year of the dinosaur.
The Merfolk. Now, the Merfolk went through all sorts of changes. First of all, they weren't even Merfolk for all the time. They were druids, and then they were beastmasters, and anyway, and what we ended up with is we played around with the idea of them caring about spells. That's something we started with. In fact, we gave prowess to the Merfolk for a while. Blue and green. Green normally doesn't even have prowess, but we liked the idea they cared about spells. What we found, though, was the problem was, if you want to be a tribal set, you have to care about creatures, and so there's this weird tension between getting enough creatures in your deck and getting enough non-creatures to care about non-creatures. So we said, okay, let's make them about creatures and not about non-creatures. But we liked the idea of growth in green. We wanted to give Merfolk something a little bit different to play around with. So we like this idea of a +1/+1 counter theme, where green kind of got to grow things, and blue helps sort of sneak them through. And so there's a little theme of sort of playing around with size in Merfolk, and that they're definitely a thing that sort of grows size. They're the ramping deck. They ramp in mana, they ramp in size, that there's something that over time they're going to build up and beat you.
I really wanted to lean into like the natural elements of them, you know, the blue being graceful, dancer-like water shapers, and the green Merfolk being more grounded and a little bit more physical. I mean, they walk on land here. They're not always in water, so they're kind of exploring the land while everyone else is exploring the sea. There is this kind of just elegant beauty to that. Beauty lends appeal to a world. It's not the only tool in our toolbox to make people want to be in a place. Like some places that we create, some of the planes have, you know, danger or horror built into them that's also just as appealing. But here, you know, what makes you want to part the ferns and go to the next part of the jungle or keep pressing forward? Getting lost in the sort of beauty of the nature here and beauty of the creatures and the people, it was important to me during the concepting.
The Merfolk have a very strong history in Magic that revolves around, you know, I play creatures, I play lords, and then my Merfolk army kind of takes you over. We really wanted to preserve that while also adding, you know, a little extra Ixalan flair to them. So now we've introduced hexproof on the tokens, 1/1 counters for limited, and a little bit of unblockability.
One of the best parts about moving Merfolk into green was it did open up some new design space. Like, we've been doing Merfolk for 25 years almost now, and you know, we can only do so many Lord of Atlantises. Now, I grant you, we can do a few more of them, but there is an upper limit to how many of those cards we can do. Letting us go into green all of a sudden meant that we took some of those similar tropes that we used to do, and for instance, the Merfolk here are all about summoning elementals and sharing +1/+1 counters, and we got to really figure out how to make those green cards while still feeling like Merfolk. They still have that tricksy kind of feeling behind them.
So I talked a little bit about how the blue Merfolk kind of had a grace to them, and they deal with water and move kind of like dancers. And I think Kapala, Warden of the Waves by Magali Villeneuve is one of the greatest examples in the set of just that grace and beauty being exuded through the art, through the character. And then on the other hand, you have a green Merfolk like Deeproot Champion by Raymond Swanland, who really captured that just sort of physical essence of the strength of the green Merfolk. It's like it's a groundedness. There's a groundedness to green and a fluidity to blue that are both really captured and dynamic here.
I would be remiss if I did not mention Tishana, Voice of Thunder. I love big, splashy blue-green cards. Blue-green is one of my favorite color combinations. And so drawing a card for every creature you control is perfect for me. I just want to go wide, slam this down, draw like 8 cards, and feel in control of the game. And I expect to be doing that pretty soon on a commander table near you.
Working on the tribes in Limited was challenging because the tribes are not balanced across the colors. For example, if you want equal amounts of blue-green drafters and blue-white drafters and red-black drafters, which we like to in most of our set, that means you get 3 times as many pirate decks because you have blue-black, red-black, and blue-red, but only one color combination is in vampires. So trying to get the color balance versus the tribal balance was really, really tricky and a really interesting challenge.
The long-term impact of Ixalan on Magic is this is kind of a test for us to see if we take a bunch of different things and put them together, how is it going to work? Because these things don't really naturally go together. It's a bit of an unusual fit. We crafted a world around it to make sure that it would all feel coherent. And it's a slam dunk. The set worked perfectly, and you have all these 4 things, Merfolk, vampires, dinosaurs, pirates, and they all fit together really, really well, even though it doesn't seem like they would on paper. So from a design standpoint, the fact that we could do this and it was such a hit means a lot for future design space.